And the Ticats announced this week 10 players on their negotiation released to the public. And here to discuss that is the Senior Director of Player Personnel and Co-Manager of Football Operations, Shawn Burke. Shawn, great to talk to you. The negotiation list is such an important part of this game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of the lifeblood of recruiting American players up here. You know, it's almost like our draft without the draft. It's a way of protecting guys that you see, you know, could be in college, could be at an NFL camp, could be at a college all-star game, but it gives you the basis for bringing players up here. And there's different timelines in when you put them on and when you take them off. You know, sometimes you'll throw on a guy that you've been talking to and interested in just to make sure you hold his rights until you get him signed, where other guys you have on your list for multiple years and you wait to see what happens. So everyone's got sort of a different story of how they got on the neg list or the why behind it, but it's definitely the lifeblood of bringing American players up to our league.
And you've obviously had some success with getting players here that have been on your negotiation list in past years, including, you know, Jamal Roll, who I think is just having an all-star like season. Julian Hauser, who's such a stud on that defensive line for you. How do those kind of negotiations work to get these guys up here?
You know, like I was saying, it all depends. Jamal, if I'm recalling correctly, was on an offer list a few times because of getting NFL opportunities and, you know, making it to training camp of NFL and making a practice roster. And then you just sort of have to wait and keep in contact. It's important to have relationships with agents throughout North America and know the type of agent you're dealing with, if they direct them more to the CFL or if they wait out the NFL. And then obviously it's getting in contact with the players and talking about your organization and the things you do here. Probably how we handled Jamal back probably 4 or 5 years ago now is a little different than how we do things now. It's just the evolution of our personnel department and different staff members in it and whatnot. So, you know, we're very research-based with all our stuff. Everything has planning of how these guys are going to incorporate into our organization, both on and off the field. But, you know, Julian's a guy that we saw in college as a D-end, and he never even had time at D-end in the NFL, really. He was moved to fullback, so it was based off college film and just keeping an eye on him in the NFL, and he bounced around with New York and Seattle a bit and then just wanted to play football. That's first and foremost. Is when these guys get through sort of an NFL cycle of making it or not, they have a decision to make if they want to continue the game and advance it up here and, you know, possibly get back down south, or for those two guys, as an example, carve out a career up here. Or a lot of guys that you put on the list, once they get that last release from the NFL, that's the closure they need to move on to the next chapter. So, you know, when you're looking at a percentage of guys you put on a neg list a season, it's not every guy that ever ends up here. It's you're doing the research on these guys to see if they will come up here, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Well said. Let's take a look at the 10 names that have been released this week. We don't want to go through all of them here, but let's highlight a couple. 5 quarterbacks, and among them, Jamie Newman out of Georgia. What do you like about him?
Yeah, Jamie, you know, had an interesting last couple of years. I think a lot of guys would say the COVID year of last year was a little interesting, but he was at Wake Forest, very productive. Got in when Sam Hartman got hurt there, who's ironically another guy in our neg list. But Jamie went in there and showed the big play potential he has. Solid athlete, big arm, and then transferred to Georgia for the COVID season and opted out during COVID and, you know, had a high-ranking draft position, and we had him on the neg list and then took him off, and then the night before the draft actually just put him back on, and it just didn't work out on draft night for him. And he got signed by the Eagles after, and now has been released by the Eagles. So we've been conversing with him and his agent. just talking and about career path. Probably going to take a little bit longer just to see if he gets some workouts and calls, but definitely interested in the CFL. And from everything we see on film, is someone we would like in our organization.
Let's stay on the offensive side, and you have wide receiver JoJo Ward out of Hawaii. What do you like about him?
Just an explosive player. He's a receiver and a returner. Has the potential to play many different spots at receiver in our league, which, as you know, in our organization, we love versatility. Probably see him more closer to the ball, but does have the ability to play the X. Just a playmaker. Has a toughness for his size too. So, when you're talking about the old prototypical CFL player that maybe slips under the radar on the NFL, JoJo's a guy that we envision in that.
And then let's flip over defensively. One of, I think, just 2 of the 10 names released. I know there's more, but of the 10 names released, one of the 2 defensive players, Vosean Joseph out of Florida, linebacker. We know the Ticats linebackers now are pretty dominant. Do you feel like he's someone who could fit in well with the group you have now?
Yeah, just an explosive athlete. We think he has the ability to be versatile, play Mike or Will in our league. He's a guy that we've been conversing with for a while. We tried to get up to compete at training camp, and much like many guys on a neg list, the timing has to be right. And for it to work for the athlete or the team, they have to be wanting to come up here, and they're ready to come up here. And that's a conversation you have to have with the athletes. And if they're not all in when they step on the field in Hamilton, they're still thinking the what ifs and buts of what could have happened in the NFL. It usually, in my opinion, in my time, doesn't work as well. So, we want to give the guys time and space to make the decision that's best for their career. At the end of the day, you only have one football career as a player, and you have to make decisions. So Vosean's been great. We've talked to him many times. Very productive athlete at Florida. Was with the Bills. Would be excited to see him join the organization, and we'll continue our conversations with him.
Berkey, always appreciate your insight, especially on these names to watch. It's always exciting to kind of give some fans some of the insights of what goes on behind the scenes here. So thanks for doing this. Great to catch up with you.
Thanks, Louie.